Dead by Daylight, much like other online games, is not the same today as it was when it launched back in 2016. It's had its ups and downs, so in this video, we're gonna break down the most controversial things to come out of the game. Way back at the beginning of the game's life, the save files were stored locally on a player's computer. They weren't backed up online or anything. If something happened to those files, then all that progress would have instantly vanished. It was common advice to continuously save a backup for that reason. This was a big issue for people who earned legacy skins, which were skins that were given to players who prestiged their character prior to patch 1.3.0, a patch that made the leveling up grind much easier. These skins stand out because they can't be earned anymore and they'll never return. Because of that, behavior couldn't give them back to players that reported their skins missing, so instead they gave out 10 million blood points as compensation. Speaking of, another problem was, if you wanted to commit a little bit of fraud, you could actually go into the game files and change how many blood points you had. In December of 2016, there was a glitch in the game. Not surprising for the time, but this glitch was special. Using this exploit in the menu let killers swap powers with other killers. They could even use survivor perks too. This made combos like Chainsaw Myers a reality. It didn't stop there though. Survivors could also use a killer's power through that same glitch. Also, for some reason, it was possible for a killer to accidentally drop their powers. So if they were in the middle of a chase, they would have to go back and pick it up. How embarrassing. This obviously caused a lot of turmoil and even more glitches in games, and it really wasn't helped by the fact that the devs were on vacation when all of this happened. They were away for a whole month, so this exploit didn't get patched until January 12th.
I think we did a pretty good job so far.
This quote refers to an interview that Matthew Cote, one of the game's directors, said when he was asked how development has gone. At the time, this put the community in an uproar because the game was absolutely filled with bugs and other issues. It was hard to have fair matches and even harder to have normal ones. Not to mention how long it took to actually get into a game. Over the years, the community has used the quote to highlight when something goes wrong in a match. Despite that, as development went on and the game's stability improved, Cote has himself adopted that line as a joke.
I think they did a pretty good job so far.
This update attempted to fix an issue that made it impossible to rescue a downed survivor with a pallet or flashlight save while they were being picked up or dropped mid-animation. The solution here was to simply let the whole pickup or drop animation play fully and follow that up with the stun that let the survivor break free. However, this led to a much bigger issue. Because of this change, a flashlight blind was able to be successfully done at any point of the pickup animation, foregoing any sense of accuracy or timing. This made it so much more difficult for killers if just one person brought a flashlight. Luckily, this change was reverted back only 4 days later. Here we have another Matthew Cote moment that's been infamously memed on.
I used to love playing as a killer, win or lose it was fun, but currently no matter what it's just filled with stress and anger. Killers aren't feared anymore. Do you have any plans or ideas how you would like to improve the killer experience? Well, I would say maybe try Survivor. No, but it's true. I mean, change it up. Maybe you're just tired, you know, or play something else for a week. Try Civilization or something.
This, of course, didn't sit right with people, but what he's saying actually does make sense. Taking a break from something if it makes you legitimately stressed and angry is generally good advice. However, there could have been more nuance to this response, especially because the person that sent this comment in asked what the plan is to improve the killer experience. Cote himself realized this, and a few hours later would state that he regretted saying what he said and that the question put him under a lot of pressure at the moment, causing him to react too quickly.
I shouldn't be saying that. Should I be saying that? It's a good game. Just play that. No, Bjorn is telling me I shouldn't be saying that. Okay.
The video games, the movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible. I see it.
Back in 2018, DBD was featured in an official White House video detailing, as the title implies, violence in video games. Now, this was back when President Orange was in charge, so we went through something we as gamers unfortunately have to go through every couple of years.
Violent video games have a negative impact on teenagers. The link between violent video games and mass murders is undeniable.
Critics, including the National PTA, say such video games contribute to violence in real life.
Many experts feel that violent games will inevitably lead to violent behavior.
Understand that these are not harmless toys.
This video was nothing more than a propaganda piece that was used to try to pin the blame of rising violence, namely public mass shootings, on video games. Blaming games for real-world violence isn't anything new for older people, going back all the way since the first Mortal Kombat came out. Ever since then, there have been countless studies disproving this exact type of fear-mongering. But you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, this footage does kind of make me want to go out and carry someone over my shoulder. If you subscribe right now, I'll do that to you. And if you don't want that to happen, then you better subscribe either way. When Pyramid Head was announced, Silent Hill fans rejoiced and were very excited to play him. Players got a taste in the PTB and were hooked. However, by the time he was officially released, something was wrong. Something was different about him. Something just kind of fell flat.
What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair.
The devs actually addressed this and stated that they didn't touch his model and instead modified his apron, which gave the illusion that his model was changed. Players were still not happy, and they had every right to be, because over a year later, the truth was finally revealed. That's when a Reddit user got to the bottom of all of this and removed Pyramid Head's apron to give us a clear view of the biggest nerf in DBD history. Finally, on January 14th, 2022, the devs admit defeat and confess what everyone knew all along. The issue was resolved and we could finally just leave this all behind. July 28th, 2020 is a day that lives in infamy amongst Billy Mains. That was the day that the overheat mechanic was added to his chainsaw, severely limiting his mobility with it. A lot of players felt that this was a step too far, as it tanked Billy in the killer ranks since this severely cut his mobility. Another thing that came out of this update was an aura rework. The change made auras less visible the further away you were, especially on brighter maps. This obviously got in the way of normal gameplay with perks that rely on their visibility. Fortunately, this was addressed quickly and the auras were made a lot better on the next patch on August 5th. On November 26, 2020, the Dead by Daylight team asked players to nominate the game for the Steam Awards. The game at the time was not in a great state. More and more updates made the game more and more bugged and broken. Players felt like their concerns were being constantly overlooked, especially with the problems of the upcoming Binding of Kin DLC, which seemed to be set to release unfinished. This caused the divided player base to band together to clown on this request, forcing the comment section to be locked soon after it was posted. The same thing happened a year later as players thought the game was even more undeserving of the award. Colorblind mode was a very common request for a long time, but according to one dev, it was a little too common of a request. So much so that when asked about it on his stream, a dev said that
it's getting really boring just blabbing about colorblind mode all the time. We've heard it a million times. We know. Continuing to badger us about it isn't going to change anything.
This caused quite a bit of a firestorm, and enough noise was made for Behavior to officially announce colorblind mode a little bit more than a week after this incident. For the 4.5.0 patch, a new HUD was introduced and it was something. They tried to clean it up and make it more visually appealing from what it used to be, but it was just kind of positioned weird. It was scattered to different corners and it looked like something you'd expect from a mobile game. It actually arguably looked worse than DBD Mobile's HUD. Thankfully, they worked on it over the coming months to make it a lot more fitting and readable and to become the HUD that we all know and love today.
Krabs is up.
In 2021, a sensor was added to the endgame chat. That's not anything unusual in of itself, but this sensor was more confusing than anything. For one, it uses an AI to try to understand the context behind what's being said. This doesn't always work out though, as seamlessly harmless words get struck down, ranging from a simple GG to even the names of perks or characters. In addition to that, this means that toxic players can still get around it to say things that should be detected but aren't. This is an M-rated game, so why is it as sensitive as a Roblox chat filter? Thankfully, it seems to have gotten better since then. On August 16, 2021, Behavior tweeted out that the Stranger Things DLC was leaving the store. That meant that after November 17th, the characters and skins wouldn't be available for purchase anymore. As a result, there was a sale for half off of all cosmetics for those characters. Whatever players had bought would still be usable, but the Hawkins map will be taken out of rotation. This is all because Behavior's use of the Stranger Things license expired and Netflix didn't want to renew it. Many were hit with the stark reality that at any point, any licensed DLC DLC could one day disappear as well. To this day, there's still not a definite answer as to why Netflix didn't want to renew the license. Ever since the removal, players have been very vocal about wanting the license to return. Over 40,000 people have signed a petition for that. Many gamers, myself included, never got to experience Hawkins. I only have the Stranger Things DLC because I bought a code for it back when they were at a reasonable price. Nowadays, one can cost you more than $100, and even then you're pretty much stuck with default skins. When Behavior announced a collaboration with Boss Protocol to make their Hellraiser models into NFTs, fans did not take this kindly. People were outraged because this was announced a month after the DLC was available. So players felt that the NFT ties should have been disclosed back then because they wouldn't have bought it if that was the case. As a result, the DLC was review bombed and to this day hasn't fully recovered. This whole thing also called into question the future of the game itself. Was Behavior interested in making more NFTs of future DLCs? Of already existing content? On top of that, people were speculating if the game would even be allowed to still be on Steam. Shortly before this, Valve put out a statement clearly banning all NFTs from their platform. Luckily, Behavior soon clarified all of this. NFTs aren't going to be included in the game itself, and there will be no content behind an NFT paywall. What's interesting about their statement is that they highlighted the fact that even though they made the models, the license holders still have the rights to them, and they can do whatever they want because they own those characters. It is possible that Behavior didn't know those models would be made into NFTs and would have been contractually obligated to make that NFT announcement. Otherwise, the whole DLC could have just been scrapped. Or maybe they did know ahead of time and decided to bite the bullet because it was the only way they could get Hellraiser into the game. Either way, this doesn't look good for any potential future Hellraiser content because any new models would likely have to be made into NFTs as well if that was in the licensing contract. There's no way that Behavior would want to repeat all of this, so that unfortunately means we won't get any new Hellraiser skins. Bubba players used to be able to unlock head cosmetics after killing the original survivors 25 times each. One of these cosmetics was the smart face, Claudette's face. I don't know how long you guys have been on the internet, but if there's anything I learned, it's that when people with bad intentions see an opportunity to act on those intentions, they'll do it. This is exactly what happened here. Racist players used this mask to target and harass black content creators and other players using black characters. Behavior listened to these concerns and made the decision to remove all these cosmetics. Not surprisingly, players were divided on this decision. People claim this to be a case of everyone getting punished for the actions of a bad bunch, and that this was easier to do than improving the ban system. Anyone who had one of these masks were given 6,000 Eerie shards, and they didn't think it was enough for the amount of time they put into getting them. Even the artists who made the masks weighed in on this in support of the removal, because the harm outweighed the good that they brought. Prior to February of 2022, there was a way to change the resolution of the game on PC. People would stretch it out and take advantage of it because it let players see around corners much better. This was a hot topic debate as it obviously does look like cheating, but lots of people still use it because, and I quote, "I like the way it looks." Well, that doesn't really match up with another problem, which was that it actually got Ghostface out of his stock when it shouldn't have. Behavior, after so long, eventually addressed this and removed it in the 5.6.0 patch and replaced the excess space with black bars. Moris are one of the funner elements of playing Killer. It's like a job well done and a pat on the back all in one. It's also very optional. In the 6.3.0 PTB, however, Behavior tested out a new Mori system. They were no longer available during the game and instead triggered at the end of every match. The killer and last survivor to go down would be teleported to a designated spot on the map for the Mori animation to play out and for the game to end. Other survivors on Hooked are sacrificed and survivors on the ground are killed by the entity. This means that a killer could down and slug everyone to get an easier win. To compensate for that, Bill's perk Unbreakable was made base kit as a survivor could get themselves up after 45 seconds. These changes were not well received. For one, killers no longer had the option of giving the last survivor hatch. Down survivors being able to be killed no matter their hook stage meant that really skilled players could get an easy match. Luckily, none of these changes came out of the PTB, but Behavior has stated that they did want to rework Moris, so we'll just have to see how that turns out next time. For the Christmas event, some really nice skins were released. So nice that we apparently wouldn't be able to handle them being available year-round. Behavior announced that these skins, alongside others that have already been in the game for a long time, will become limited time cosmetics. This wasn't a single line of text that could have easily been missed by people just expecting a normal collection announcement. That's right, after dipping their toes in limited time skins for Halloween, they officially went all out to play the FOMO card, and players were not having it. Many had brought up the fact that Dead by Daylight isn't a free-to-play game, and yet it's leaning its store values closer and closer to the models that free-to-play games use. The skins are expensive, there are regular DLC packages, there's a battle pass, and now there's pressure to get that skin you like because it won't be available for another year? Who knows if you'll still be alive by then, so just do it right now! Go get your mom's credit card! Behavior's official public reasoning behind all this is so that those event skins can feel more special when they're available. All in all, this whole thing isn't a popular decision, and the actual reason for it is simple.
Money!
Haddie Core was added into the game with the Root to Dredge chapter and then was kind of forgotten about by the DVD store department. She didn't launch with anything special really. Most of her skins were basically drab recolors and her heads all looked the same, her lipstick and jewelry being the only change. And you'll see that if you use a magnifying glass up to your screen. If only there was a large streak of color or something that would be more noticeable if it was changed. The heads were also bugged at first because they looked pretty much exactly the same. As of this video, she has the least amount of skins for any original character. Now let's take a quick look-see at the new original character after her.
Don't be intimidated, Squidward. Try to imagine him in his underwear. Oh no, he's hot!
Vittorio Toscano is a character that was handcrafted and artisanally sculpted to sell well. First of all, there was actually a really good selection with his recolors. He's also the first DVD survivor to release with 2 very rare cosmetics, which are also shirtless cosmetics. Already, he has a massive leg up on Haddie, and that's just on his first day out. He's still gonna get more too. Ever since her release, Haddie has had an Amazon Prime skin, a very rare linked set skin, a Twisted Masquerade event skin, which is also locked to participation in the event, and finally a Christmas sweater, which, as you can guess based on the last controversy we talked about, is also locked away for purchase only in that event. At a certain point, she didn't get a new skin in over 9 months. Her being neglected also highlighted the problem for other survivors that are left behind in the cosmetics department, all while other characters got the limelight time after time. It makes sense though. The survivors that get used the most also get the most cosmetics. Then the ones that get the best cosmetics attract new players, and they become even more popular. And then they get more cosmetics because of that, and thus the Feng Min cycle is born. It seemed as though all hope was lost, but Behavior finally addressed this issue in February of 2023, where they have announced that they have expanded their cosmetics department so that more characters get more skins regularly, and Haddie will be one of the first to get this treatment with a new very rare skin. Haddie players, no, all lesser used survivor players rejoiced. They have won.
Victory screech!
On February 10, 2023, this video was uploaded teasing the upcoming chapter Tools of Torment. This got players really excited as it seemed to hint at some sort of cyborg killer with a skull theme. Everyone was speculating what their design and power would look like. Those fires were fanned by a promo pic that was tweeted out, from which many thought the new killer would bring some sort of search mechanic with the crates, similar to Pig. Then, the night before they were set to be revealed, this picture was leaked, and yeah. It was safe to say that players were disappointed with what was released. Disappointed at their look, their aesthetic, their skins, their 3-gen holding power, their gameplay, and their dark Brazilian manga lore. The 3-gen holding power specifically riled up everyone since the killer before her, the Knight, was also a 3-gen master. On March of 2023, many DVD streamers who played on Steam were targeted with DDoS attacks. That's when malicious people get a hold of their internet information and send in tons and tons and tons of internet traffic in order to overload their system. This leads to the internet being rendered unusable for hours to even days. This wasn't the first time that DVD streamers had to worry about this. It happened previously in late 2021, and it kinda just fizzled out. Lots of people think that Behavior fixed the issue quietly behind the scenes, but given that these waves of attacks attacks have a comeback, that doesn't seem to be what happened. People were understandably confused and frustrated at what was going on. It all came to a head when DBD tweeted out that they've been investigating this issue and found no evidence that any personal IP addresses were leaked. This upset players even more because what a lot of people took away from this tweet was that Behavior is ignoring the problem by essentially saying that there are no DDoS attacks going on. However, while the messaging could have been clearer, that's not what the tweet said. An IP address doesn't have to be leaked for a DDoS attack to occur. It's entirely possible that the Steam servers the game uses are corrupted, and that's how the DDoS attacks are happening. This idea was highlighted on the Dead by Daylight subreddit in a now deleted post by a security engineer. As streamers found ways to protect themselves, the problem kinda died down as it did the last time. As of this video, there hasn't been another official statement from Behavior about what happened.
I need healing.
The 6.7.0 PTB brought in the biggest questionable change in a long while at this point: healing. Specifically, medkit healing and self-healing. They weren't just nerfed, they were butchered. All of the medkits and their add-ons were nerfed heavily across the board, weakening strong ones and making the already weak ones practically ineffective. The time it took to self-heal also increased. This meant that under certain circumstances, it can actually take 6 minutes to self-heal. It also really didn't help that Circle of Healing, a very popular perk, had its self-healing ability completely removed. A huge chunk of the community, on both the killer and survivor sides, were very concerned about this. It would drive away the more casual players, and for everyone else, playing as a survivor would be so painful that killers in turn will be nerfed later on as a response. Thankfully, Behavior listened to this feedback and made the nerfs a lot less severe by the time the official patch came out.